The sound of Ryan's voice cuts through the air, clear and sharp. I hate the Granger name. Still, I remain silent, the laughter around me a distant hum. As I sit alone later that night, the weight of his words sinks in. The faint rustle of paper breaks the silence as I sign the papers. The decision made. The next morning, my lawyer ensures that the name he discarded is now legally his past. He'll never use it again. Before the story begins, tell me, where are you watching from? I hope your day's gentle and calm. Please like, subscribe, and let's start our story together. The soft hum of chatter fills the air, blending with the gentle clink of glassware as the evening sun dips low behind Charleston's iconic mansions. The garden of the Ward estate is meticulously arranged, golden lights twinkling on crystal chandeliers strung between towering oak trees. The scent of fresh flowers and sea air mixes with the sound of a string quartet playing in the background, a perfect picture of wealth and refinement. Tom Granger sits alone at a corner table. His suit, though well-tailored, is a shade too humble amidst the sea of luxury surrounding him. He's a man out of place in this world, a reminder of where he came from, and yet he remains seated, a quiet observer. The guests, the heirs, and high society of Charleston move around him as if he's just a fixture in the background. His eyes scan the room, but there's no connection here, not anymore. The buzz of conversation dies down as Ryan steps to the microphone at the center of the room, his posture confident, his smile radiant. Tom watches his son, standing tall in a crisp suit, so at ease here in this world that Tom never fully understood. The family's legacy, their name, their wealth, their position, all of it now intertwined with the Wards. Tom feels the weight of it like a dull ache in his chest, but he swallows it down, keeping the familiar mask in place. Ryan lifts his glass, his voice clear and strong. To my new family, the Wards, they gave me everything. The guests applaud, some raising their own glasses, but there's a moment of awkwardness, a hesitation in the air. Their eyes flicker briefly to Tom at the corner table, an almost imperceptible shift as they note his presence. It's the smallest thing, but to Tom, it feels like an elephant in the room. Ryan doesn't seem to notice the pause. He continues, his voice now dripping with pride, almost theatrical. I've always hated the Granger name. I'm proud to join a better one. A stunned silence follows. Tom's fingers tighten around his glass. He watches his son, and for a moment, the world tilts. The words hang in the air, each one like a knife wound, cutting deeper than any physical blow could. A wave of heat rushes to Tom's head, a surge of something far too hot to be anger. It's betrayal. His heart cracks open, but his face remains unreadable. Laughter fills the air again, sharp and loud, the kind of laughter that carries through the crowd like a shared joke no one dared question. The applause is polite, but knowing. Tom's grip on his glass tightens, and his throat feels tight as if all the air in the garden has been sucked out of the world. He forces a small smile, a gesture of civility, and raises his glass slightly in a muted response. The laughter continues, but Tom feels as if the room is closing in. His son's words echo through his mind like a refrain, louder with every passing second. I've always hated the Granger name. I'm proud to join a better one. A part of him wants to scream, to stand up and demand that Ryan take those words back, but he doesn't. He can't. Not here, not now, not in front of all these people who have watched this son of his flesh and blood, dishonor everything Tom built with his bare hands. The legacy of a self-made man, twisted in an instant, reduced to a punchline in a wedding toast. Tom's jaw tightens, but he remains seated. The smile never falters. He clinks his glass once, lightly, the sound lost in the sea of laughter around him. The crowd doesn't notice. They're too busy with their celebration, too busy congratulating themselves and each other. Tom doesn't even look at Ryan anymore. His gaze shifts to the darkened horizon, the trees stretching out into the night, the city lights glimmering in the distance. There's no joy left in this moment, only emptiness. Without another word, Tom stands. The chair scrapes against the stone floor, a sound so loud in the silence that follows. The room's chatter continues, unaware of the storm brewing in the heart of the man who made them all. He walks toward the exit, his steps deliberate, his face carefully composed. As he crosses the threshold into the cool night air, the warmth of the garden fades. The laughter and celebration grow distant, replaced by the quiet hum of the city beyond. Tom's heart beats heavily in his chest, but he doesn't let the emotion rise. Not yet. Not here. He walks alone into the dark, the weight of his son's betrayal pressing down with every step. Outside, the night air is crisp, sharp even, as if it's rejecting him just as much as his son has. The world around him continues on, unaware of the fracture that has just opened between father and son. Tom pauses on the porch, staring out into the night. His fingers still grip the glass, cold now in his hand, but it's empty. Just like him. Empty. He lets the wind carry away the remnants of his broken pride. One small empty toast, one lifetime of work undone. But in the silence that surrounds him, one question lingers, sharp and pointed, like a shard of glass. What now? And as the night deepens, the answer begins to take shape. Tom Granger's car hums down the quiet, winding streets of Charleston, the faint glow of the city lights reflecting off his windshield. The night is still, almost unnervingly so, as though the world itself is holding its breath. His fingers grip the steering wheel tighter than necessary, knuckles pale against the worn leather. The usual warmth of the city, the welcoming embrace of familiar streets, now feels hollow. He drives without thinking, his eyes fixed on the road ahead, the rhythmic pulse of the car's engine the only sound in the otherwise oppressive silence. The radio is on, the soft drone of a late-night host trying to fill the air with light chatter. But Tom's mind is elsewhere. His thoughts are consumed by Ryan's words, over and over again, like a loop he can't escape. I've always hated the Granger name. I'm proud to join a better one. Each repetition sharpens the pain, twists the knife deeper. It's not just the words, it's the betrayal behind them, the public humiliation, the disrespect of a legacy he spent his entire life building, brick by brick, the name his hands crafted from nothing, a name now discarded as if it meant nothing. Tom's grip on the wheel tightens further. The hum of the radio fades into the background as his thoughts intensify, the weight of his son's words pressing down on him like a vice. He knows it was coming, but to hear it spoken aloud in front of everyone, it's different. His stomach churns as his eyes flicker to the rearview mirror, as though looking for something, anything, that could make this real, something that could anchor him in the midst of the chaos in his mind. When the car slows in front of his house, Tom's gaze drifts to the passenger seat. There, neatly placed on the seat beside him, is the wedding gift he'd left for Ryan. A plaque, an heirloom, engraved with the words, Granger Family Legacy. The weight of it, the absurdity of it, catches in Tom's chest. He hadn't even been able to bring himself to open it during the reception. It had felt like a futile gesture, a symbol of a past that had already been severed, a family's name, a legacy, so easily tossed aside. Without a word, he picks it up, the cold wood smooth in his hands. His eyes linger on the engraving for a long moment, each letter a reminder of everything Ryan had just rejected. Then, with the kind of care that can only come from years of holding on to something precious, Tom places it face down on the passenger seat. The sharp click of the plaque, meeting the upholstery, sounds like a punctuation mark to the evening's cruel chapter. The silence in the car is suffocating. Tom finally shuts the engine off and leans back, taking a slow breath, his fingers rubbing the edge of his brow as if trying to erase the sting. But it's there, and it's not going away. The bitterness lingers in the air, thick like smoke. His phone buzzes in the cup holder. He ignores it at first, but then it buzzes again, Emma's name flashing on the screen. He hesitates. He doesn't want to hear any more apologies, any more empty words. But she's his daughter, his only other tie to this shattered family. He swipes to answer. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't know he'd say that. Her voice is quiet, strained. He can hear the weight of her own sorrow, her own confusion. Tom sits up, glancing out the windshield into the dark yard. The streetlights cast long shadows on the grass, and the house looms in front of him, silent and still. Everything feels still, frozen. He's not sure what to say. What can he say? He already knows the truth. Ryan's betrayal is not a mistake. It's a choice. Neither did he, Tom says quietly, the words heavy but controlled. He takes a deep breath, willing himself to keep his voice steady. He won't break in front of her. Not yet. Not when everything feels so fragile. There's a long pause on the other end of the line. Emma doesn't respond right away. Maybe she doesn't know what to say either. Maybe they're both just trying to find the right words, but neither of them can. After a moment, she sighs. "What are you going to do, Dad?" Tom's eyes flicker to the house again. He doesn't answer right away. His mind is already working, already shifting, already calculating the next move. His entire life, everything he's worked for, his name, his reputation, his legacy, it's all tied up in this moment. He can't just let it slip away. Not like this. Not without making sure Ryan understands the cost of what he's done. "I'll figure it out," Tom finally says, the edge of his voice darker now. "I always do." He doesn't wait for her reply. He knows the conversation is over for now. He's already moving forward, already thinking ahead, but there's a cold determination that's begun to take root deep inside him. There's no going back, and maybe, just maybe, there's a way to make Ryan understand the weight of his choices. Tom opens the door and steps out of the car, the cool night air hitting his face like a slap. He stands there for a moment, just breathing. Inside, the house feels different now. The silence in the foyer is deafening. Tom walks through the hallway to his study, his steps slow and deliberate. He approaches a drawer, one labeled simply, "Estate Planning." With a steady hand, he opens it. The papers are all there, waiting. The words on them are the only thing he has left that still carries weight, the only thing he can still control. His finger hovers over the stack, but before he can reach for it, something inside him hardens. There's no more hesitation. The next step is clear. He pulls the papers out, the rustling of the sheets sharp in the stillness of the room. And just like that, the first move in what's to come is set in motion. The first light of dawn creeps through the window, casting long shadows across the living room floor. Tom Granger wakes before the sun fully rises, his mind already heavy with the weight of the night before. The silence in the house feels suffocating, oppressive, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. He sits up in bed, his body stiff, his mind foggy, but the sting of Ryan's words still lingers, sharp and unrelenting. He rises, moves slowly through the house, and pulls on his robe. His steps are mechanical, as if the motions of getting out of bed and starting the day are just that, motions without any real purpose. The kitchen is dark, the faintest glimmer of light creeping through the blinds, but he makes himself a cup of coffee anyway. The ritual is familiar, comforting, but today it feels like nothing more than a distraction. As the coffee brews, Tom moves toward the living room and picks up the local newspaper from the coffee table. He flicks it open absently, almost without thinking. His eyes scan the front page, drawn to the headline. "A match made in Charleston, the Ward Granger wedding." The words sit there like an affront. The article is glowing, describing the union of Ryan and Evelyn Ward as a perfect blend of tradition and progress, heralding their new life together and lauding the merging of two great families. Tom's eyes narrow, his heart thudding in his chest. He reads on, the sentences blurring together, as his mind fixates on one particular quote. Ryan had said it, his own son, on the very night of the wedding. The Ward name symbolizes success and refinement. Tom's breath catches. The words reverberate in his skull, louder and sharper now than they had been in the garden the night before. His fingers tremble slightly as they clutch the newspaper, but his eyes remain fixed on the line. The betrayal, the complete disregard for everything he had worked for, it all floods back, choking him. His fingers move without thought, pulling a red pen from the desk drawer, the familiar motion almost automatic. With a steady hand, he circles the words. The Ward name symbolizes success and refinement. The red ink stands out starkly against the paper, the violent contrast almost too much to bear. His son, his flesh and blood, had chosen that name over everything Tom had built, over every lesson he'd tried to teach him, over a legacy Tom had forged with sweat, blood, and years of sacrifice. He stares at the red circle for what feels like an eternity, as if the words themselves are mocking him, daring him to react. Tom's jaw tightens, and a deep ache settles in the pit of his stomach. There's no escaping it now. The break is final. There is no going back. He places the newspaper down, setting the red pen beside it. The kitchen feels even quieter now, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. He moves toward the window, pulling back the curtains just enough to see the quiet street outside. The world is still, as if it hasn't yet realized the shift that has occurred in his life. The phone rings, breaking the stillness. Tom glances at it, not surprised to see Martha's name on the screen. He hesitates for only a moment before answering. "Martha," he says, his voice flat, controlled. "Good morning, Tom. I just wanted to be one of the first to congratulate you on your retirement." "A new chapter?" Martha's voice is warm, cheerful, careful, as if she's not entirely sure how to approach him today. She knows him well enough to sense the tension beneath the surface. Tom nods, but doesn't speak for a moment. He leans against the window frame, looking out into the early morning light. The words from the paper echo again in his mind, and he knows, deep down, that things have changed. He can't let it go. Not now. Not after what Ryan said. "Change of plans, Martha," he says quietly, his voice calm, but there's an edge to it now. The resolve is already taking hold of him. "I want to rewrite a few things." Martha's pause is subtle, but it's there. He can feel it, even through the phone. She knows something is brewing. "Tom," she begins, her tone cautious. "What exactly do you mean?" Tom exhales slowly, letting the weight of his words sink in. "I'm removing Ryan from the will entirely." Martha doesn't speak immediately. There's a silence on the other end of the line, long enough for Tom to wonder if she's going to talk him out of it. But then she sighs. "I see. Well, I can't say I'm surprised, but are you sure about this?" "It's drastic, Tom. Are you sure it's not just the anger talking?" "I'm sure," Tom says, his voice unwavering. "This is permanent." "Don't make it emotional," Martha warns, her voice low and steady. "Make it permanent. If you do this, there's no going back. You're closing doors, not just with Ryan, but with everything that comes with that name." "I'm well aware," Tom replies, his tone cold now, more determined than before. "But that's the point." Martha doesn't say anything for a long moment, and when she does, it's with a touch of concern. "If you're certain, we'll move forward. I'll prepare the documents." "Do it," Tom says. The word is final, cutting through the stillness in the room. He ends the call, and the quiet that follows is almost suffocating. Tom stares out the window again, the weight of what he's about to do settling over him like a heavy cloak. He's made his decision. Ryan has made his, and now Tom will make his own. The legacy of the Granger name is no longer a gift. It's a weapon. The house feels colder now. The newspaper, still with its red circle, sits untouched on the counter. Tom knows he can't undo what's been done. He doesn't even want to. He takes a final, steadying breath. And then, for the first time, he begins to draft a new future. The Ward's mansion is bathed in soft, early morning light. The sprawling estate, gleaming with the kind of wealth that is so meticulously cultivated, it feels as if even the sun itself has been carefully timed to shine just right. The breakfast table is set in the grand dining room, its polished surface reflecting the crystal chandeliers overhead. A spread of fresh pastries, eggs, and smoked salmon sits untouched as Ryan laughs, a little too loudly, at something his new in-laws have said. He's at ease here. So much at ease, it's almost as if he was born to be a part of this world, the Ward's world. Evelyn, his wife, is perched beside him, smiling with the kind of poise that comes naturally to her. She's already talking business, her voice smooth and measured. It's not just about the wedding anymore. It's about brand and image, about crafting the future they've envisioned for themselves. Ryan's new identity is already forming, and it has nothing to do with the name he was born with. Tom Granger's wedding gift sits in the foyer, its box still pristine, untouched. The Granger family legacy plaque he had so carefully chosen is nothing but an afterthought here. It's a symbol of the past, a weight that doesn't belong in this new world that Ryan is eager to inhabit. Margaret Ward, Evelyn's mother, places her coffee cup down with a slight, self-assured smile. "You'll be a fine addition to our legacy," she says, her voice smooth but condescending, as if she's bestowing a favor, not merely acknowledging an obvious truth. The compliment lands heavy, like a golden chain around Ryan's neck, and he beams at the praise, basking in it. "Thanks, Margaret," Ryan says, his tone easy, but with just the right amount of humility. "I'll be Ryan Ward soon enough." Evelyn leans in, her eyes sparkling with ambition. "We'll rebrand the app under your new name," she adds, her words practically dripping with promise. "It'll be a fresh start. No more baggage." Ryan's eyes shine with excitement. The prospect of Ward Systems, a name that carries weight, a name that echoes success. He can already see it. The new logo, the app getting funding, investors nodding approvingly. Everything is aligning perfectly. The past is being erased, and a new legacy is beginning. The Granger name, his father's name, will soon be a distant memory. Ryan takes a sip of his coffee, the steam rising in the quiet morning air, and he flashes a smile. "Dad'll understand," he says, shrugging casually, almost too casually. "He's old-fashioned. He'll get it." There's an uncomfortable shift in the room, a brief moment where the air seems to thicken. Evelyn's smile falters, just for an instant, but she recovers quickly, her eyes drifting to her mother, silently seeking reassurance, and Margaret nods approvingly, her lips curling into a practiced, polite smile. Ryan's words echo in Tom's mind like a painful chord, but no one in the room seems to notice. The Wards have accepted their new reality, a reality where the Granger name is little more than a faded memory, a relic of a past that no longer fits. They're already planning for the future, and Tom's wedding gift, his carefully chosen gesture, sits forgotten and ignored in the foyer. Tom's absence at this breakfast is a silent one, but it's felt in the way Ryan speaks, in the way he casually dismisses everything his father had worked for. There's a certain coldness to it, a coldness that Tom could never have imagined when he had first watched his son grow up, full of promise and pride. Now, that same son is forging a new identity, one that isn't his, one that Tom never signed up for. The conversation around the table drifts into business talk, and Ryan's face lights up with each new idea. The future is unfolding before him, a future where his name no longer carries the weight of his father's struggles. It's a future he's excited to live in, a future that Tom can't even begin to recognize. And yet, in the back of his mind, Tom knows. The legacy Ryan is so eager to shed, the name he so easily discarded, it's not just a title, it's everything. It's a bond that, despite the tension, still held them together. Or at least, it used to. But Ryan doesn't see it that way. His eyes are already focused on the Ward name, on the doors it will open, on the new life he's built for himself. And in that moment, Tom knows that what was once a family is now fractured beyond repair. Meanwhile, in his office, Tom is seated behind his heavy oak desk, the papers spread before him like a map of his next move. The pen in his hand hovers over the documents. He's already made up his mind. The decision has been made. There is no going back. Martha's voice crackles through the phone, her tone steady but concerned. "Tom, are you sure about this? I mean, legally, what you're proposing, it's drastic." Tom leans back in his chair, his eyes flickering to the door of his office, as if he expects someone to walk in and tell him that this is all a bad dream. But no one does. It's just him, the room, and the weight of the choices ahead. "Yes," he says, his voice firm. "It has to be done." Martha doesn't reply right away. He knows she's waiting for him to change his mind. But he won't. Not this time. He's past the point of no return. Outside, the house is still, the morning creeping forward. Inside, the past is being erased. The Granger name, the legacy of years of hard work and sacrifice, is slipping further and further away. The papers are in his hand now. He's about to make it official. The sun streams through the tall windows of Tom's study, casting long, angular shadows across the heavy oak desk. The room is silent except for the soft rustle of paper as Martha Crane flips through the estate transfer documents. The files are neatly stacked, a representation of years of hard work, Tom's empire, built from the ground up. Each page holds a piece of his past: 3 commercial properties, 1 beach house on the coast, company stock that had seen him through decades of labor. It's all there, meticulously accounted for. Martha pauses, her eyes flickering over the final sheet. The legal language is straightforward, precise, but the implications of the next step are anything but. She looks up at Tom, her expression guarded. She's known him for years, watched him build this legacy, seen the man behind the gruff exterior. She knows what this decision means, and she's certain he does too. "I'm almost finished," she says, her voice steady but tinged with something Tom can't quite place. It's not concern. No, Martha would never show that. It's something more cautious, maybe even wary. Tom doesn't respond right away. He's leaning back in his chair, eyes locked on the wall, though he's not really seeing anything. The words from Ryan's wedding toast still echo in his mind, sharp and biting. "I've always hated the Granger name." Tom feels a deep, sickened ache at the thought. It's not just a name, not just an inheritance. It's everything. It's his blood, his sweat, his history. It's everything he had hoped to pass on. But Ryan had rejected it, rejected him. And now, Tom has to make the decision. He knows there's no going back. Martha sets the final page of the transfer documents down and looks at him again, this time a little more pointedly. "Tom," she begins, carefully choosing her words, "this will end things permanently. I need to be sure this is what you want. Once we make this move, there's no unmaking it. Not legally, not emotionally." Tom's fingers tap a slow, deliberate rhythm on the surface of the desk. He's still not looking at her. His gaze lost somewhere in the shadows. The silence hangs between them for a long moment. Finally, his voice cuts through it, low and cold. "Good," he says. He ended it first. Martha's eyes narrow, but she doesn't respond. She doesn't have to. She's seen the man Tom's become in recent years. Hard, closed off, driven by a need to protect what's his, even if it means cutting ties with the people who should have stood by him. Ryan's rejection of his name, his legacy, was the final blow. The wound had been festering for years, but this is the severing of it. With a steady hand, Martha flips to the final page of the documents and begins to draft the new clause. She's careful with the language, choosing her words as she writes. The clause reads, "The Granger name shall not be used in any future venture or asset without consent." It's precise, unambiguous. Once it's in place, it will be binding, permanent. Tom watches her write it, the weight of the decision settling deeper in his chest with each stroke of her pen. His mind flits briefly to Emma, his daughter, the only one who has remained loyal to him. She's the only one who understands the value of what he's built. But even Emma, loyal as she is, can't undo the damage Ryan has caused. "Ryan will never be able to tarnish the Granger name again," Tom mutters almost to himself. His fingers clench into fists at his sides. "Not without my permission." Martha finishes writing, her pen hovering over the final line. She looks up, her expression softening just slightly. "You're sure, Tom?" The question hangs in the air, and Tom's chest tightens, as though he can feel the gravity of what he's about to do. This is it, the end of everything he'd once hoped for, the destruction of a dream, and the cold, hard reality of what his son has done. "I'm sure," Tom says, finally looking at her. There's no hesitation in his eyes, only the bitter finality of what's coming. "You don't understand, Martha. What Ryan did, what he said about the name, it wasn't just a rejection of me. It was a rejection of everything this family is, everything I've worked for." His voice cracks slightly, but only for a moment. He clears his throat, steels himself. He made his choice. Now I'll make mine. Martha doesn't say anything more. She understands. She's seen this before. Men who can't let go, men who destroy everything in their path to preserve a sliver of their pride. But she also knows that Tom is different. This isn't about pride anymore. It's about principle. It's about ensuring that Ryan never has the chance to rewrite the past, to erase the legacy that Tom built from nothing. With a slow, deliberate motion, she signs the document and slides it over to him. "It's done," she says quietly. The words are final, and the weight of them presses down on Tom's chest. Tom picks up the pen and signs his name without looking at the document. His grip is tight, the ink flowing smoothly onto the paper. He places the pen down with the kind of resolve that only comes from years of knowing exactly what needs to be done. The room is silent again, the air thick with unspoken words. Tom stares at the papers in front of him, the legacy of his life now sealed in these few strokes of ink. But in the back of his mind, a question lingers, unspoken. What will Ryan do now? The answer isn't clear, but Tom knows that whatever comes next, there's no turning back. The morning after the wedding, Charleston is still buzzing with the remnants of the grand affair. The city's high society circles have moved on, but the echo of Ryan's words lingers like a shadow over everything. On social media, the clip of his toast, the one where he so flippantly disowns the Granger name, has gone viral. It's everywhere, trending on Twitter, shared in every group chat, reposted by influencers and strangers alike. "I've always hated the Granger name," Ryan had said, his voice clear and unapologetic. "I'm proud to join a better one." The video, that single moment of betrayal, is now etched into the public's consciousness. The reaction is swift, and not in Ryan's favor. Comments flood in, some mocking, some sympathetic to Tom, but all of them condemning Ryan's disloyalty. The words float across the screen: ungrateful, disrespectful, spoiled. It's a media firestorm that he can't control, and in his desperate attempt to separate himself from his past, Ryan has only dragged it into the spotlight. Tom watches all of it unfold in silence, his phone buzzing nonstop. The screen flashes with notifications, old colleagues reaching out, stunned, some incredulous, others expressing their disbelief. A former business partner calls him, voice heavy with judgment. "Tom, I don't know what to say. I thought you raised him better than that." Tom doesn't answer immediately. He just listens, the calmness in his voice, a stark contrast to the storm inside. He's heard this kind of talk before, the whispers behind his back, the judgment of a self-made man by those who don't understand the weight of his choices. But this is something different. This isn't about work or business. This is about family, about the very core of what he's built. Emma calls next, her voice barely controlled. "Dad, I can't believe this. How could he do this to you? I'm furious. I don't even know him anymore." Tom stands at the kitchen counter, looking out the window, the world outside as unchanged as ever. His fingers drum softly against the counter, the motion almost meditative. His voice is low, steady. "Let him have his spotlight," he says, his words cutting through the tension in the air. "I'll take the sun." Emma falls silent on the other end of the line, a long pause stretching between them. She wants to argue, to lash out, but she knows better. She knows that for all Tom's anger, he's not going to let it show. Not yet. Not in front of her. "What are you going to do?" she asks, her voice small now, cautious. Tom doesn't answer right away. He picks up the stack of papers on the counter, his eyes scanning the carefully written clauses, the legal language that will sever Ryan's ties to the Granger name, once and for all. It's done. The decision has been made. There's no going back now. "I'm finalizing it," he says simply, his gaze fixed on the papers. Everything's in motion. Martha calls next, her voice clipped as she walks him through the last steps of the estate plan. The papers are ready. All that's left is for Tom to sign them. The legalities will follow quickly after. Ryan's name will be removed from the will entirely. His claim to anything Tom has built erased with a few strokes of a pen. Emma, his daughter, will remain the primary heir. The clause about the Granger name being banned from any future venture is in place too. It's permanent. Martha's voice is steady, but she's not immune to the weight of the situation. "Tom, once you sign, there's no going back. This will change things more than you realize." Tom's hand tightens around the pen as he prepares to make it official. He doesn't flinch, doesn't hesitate. "It already has," he replies, his voice calm but heavy with intent. "And there's no turning back." The papers are signed. The deal is sealed. The Granger name is now a weapon, and Ryan, whether he knows it or not, has just lost the right to wield it. The quiet aftermath of the wedding is over. But Tom's actions are just beginning to take shape. The world won't see it yet, but the foundation for Ryan's downfall is laid in these moments. Tom walks over to the window and stares out at the skyline. He feels the weight of everything that's happened, the betrayal, the anger, the grief. But beneath it all, there's a flicker of something else: determination. This is his fight now, his legacy, his rules. As the sun begins to dip lower in the sky, Tom knows that Ryan's rise in the ward name has only just begun, but it won't last. The Granger name, the real one, still carries weight, and sooner or later, Ryan will feel the consequences of what he's done. Tom watches the city below, his mind already shifting to the next steps. The world may think Ryan's won, but Tom has always known how to play the long game, and in the quiet that follows, one thing is certain: this fight isn't over, not by a long shot. The bank is quiet as Tom enters, the sound of his shoes clicking sharply against the marble floor echoing through the cavernous lobby. His posture is straight, deliberate, as he walks toward the back office where the bank manager is waiting. It's a place he's been to many times before, but today the air feels different, charged with a quiet intensity. Today is the day everything starts to shift. Tom doesn't wait for pleasantries. He sits down at the polished oak table, setting the paperwork down in front of him with practiced precision. The manager, a middle-aged man with a firm handshake and a face that radiates professional courtesy, leans back in his chair and surveys the documents. "I see you're transferring ownership of Granger Developments into a trust," the manager says with a nod, flipping through the pages. His voice is approving, but there's a glint in his eyes, respect for the foresight it takes to protect an empire. Tom's hands remain steady as he clasps them together, his eyes fixed on the manager's face. "That's right, it's time to make sure it stays in good hands," he replies, his voice calm but weighted with finality. The manager leans back slightly, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "You've done well to plan for the future, Tom. Many people your age don't think that far ahead." Tom's lips press together in a thin line, but his gaze hardens. The comment stings more than it should. He's not just thinking about the future, he's thinking about the future without Ryan in it. But he doesn't let it show. Instead, he keeps his voice level, almost dismissive. "I'm just lightening my load," he says, his words casual, but the weight of them is palpable. The manager nods again, finalizing the documents, congratulating him on his foresight. Tom's mind is already somewhere else, lost in the mental calculations he's been making for days. This is just the first step, the business, the legacy, all of it. Soon, it will belong to Emma, his loyal daughter. She's the only one who gets it, the only one who understands the value of what he's built. As the meeting concludes, Tom stands, straightening his jacket with a quick, almost imperceptible movement. "Thank you," he says, his tone clipped, before walking out of the office, the heavy weight of his decision settling deeper with each step. Back at his office, the phone buzzes on the desk. The screen flashes with Ryan's name. Tom hesitates for only a moment before answering. "Dad, I need a line of credit for Granger Enterprises," Ryan says, his voice tight, frustrated. There's a slight tremor in his tone, but Tom knows better than to give him an inch of sympathy. Ryan's voice has been grating on him for days now, so entitled, so unaware of the weight that comes with the name he's rejected. Tom leans back in his chair, his fingers tapping lightly on the desk. "Granger Enterprises, that name doesn't exist anymore," he says, his voice flat, but there's a sharp edge to it. The words hit harder than he intended. But it's not his job to soften the blow, not anymore. There's a pause on the other end of the line. Ryan's silence speaks volumes. Tom can almost hear the gears turning in his son's head, the realization creeping in. "What the hell do you mean?" Ryan's voice rises, anger cutting through the confusion. "What are you talking about? That's my company." Tom's gaze drifts to the window, his eyes scanning the skyline, though he's not really seeing it. He's already moved on. "I legally dissolved the trademark," he says, his tone colder now. "Granger Enterprises no longer exists. I took care of it weeks ago." There's a stunned silence before Ryan finally speaks again, his voice tight with disbelief. You can't do that. That's everything I've been working for. Tom's grip tightens around the phone, but his voice remains calm, composed. You made your choice, Ryan, and now you'll live with it. Ryan sputters on the other end, words tangled in frustration. I'll call my lawyer. This is insane. You do that, Tom says, his words final, each syllable dripping with the quiet satisfaction of someone who knows they've already won. But remember, this is just the beginning. The Granger name is mine, and you've given it up. Tom hangs up the phone before Ryan can respond, his heart steady, his hands unmoving. For a long moment, he sits there, staring at the empty space in front of him. He's done what needed to be done. And yet, there's a gnawing feeling in his chest, one that tells him this isn't over, not by a long shot. Across the room, the papers on his desk wait to be signed. The last of the changes are nearly complete. The world doesn't know it yet. But Ryan's world is about to come crashing down, and Tom will be standing right there, watching it all unfold. As he picks up the pen, the thought lingers in his mind. How long before Ryan realizes what he's lost? And with that, Tom signs the papers, his decision final, but the real consequences still hanging in the balance. The small seafood restaurant is tucked away on a quiet street, far from the bustling noise of downtown Charleston. The atmosphere is warm, intimate, a world apart from the cold, polished perfection of the Ward family's mansion, or the sterile, corporate meetings Tom has been part of for years. The wooden tables, the soft hum of conversations, and the scent of fresh fish fill the air. It's a place Tom used to bring his family when they were younger, before everything started unraveling. Tonight, it's just him and Emma. She sits across from him, her hands folded on the table, the faintest hint of worry in her eyes as she watches her father, the man who has always been so steady, so in control. But tonight, he's different. There's an edge to him that Emma can't ignore, a quiet anger simmering just beneath the surface, one that she's seen before, but never quite like this. The server brings their food, a simple dish of grilled fish, vegetables, and a side of potatoes. It's nothing extravagant, but that's not what this dinner is about. They both eat in silence for a moment, the clink of silverware against plates the only sound between them. Finally, Emma sets her fork down, her eyes meeting Tom's. There's a tightness in her voice when she speaks, though she tries to mask it. Dad, is this really the best way to deal with it? I mean, all of it? Her voice falters, just for a moment. The name, the business, everything. She looks down at her plate, the words heavy between them. Tom exhales slowly, his gaze distant as he pushes his food around on his plate. He doesn't look at her immediately. There's a part of him that knows this conversation was inevitable. Emma is the one person who still sees him clearly, who still believes in the values he tried to instill in their family, and she's struggling to reconcile who her brother has become with who they both once thought he was. No, Tom says finally, his voice calm but unwavering. Revenge won't fix the hurt, but it'll teach him what legacy costs. His words hang in the air like a quiet storm. Emma looks at him for a long moment, her lips pressed together in frustration, the conflict in her eyes clear. She's angry, but she's also afraid of what this all means for her family, for her. I understand why you're doing this, she says, her voice quieter now, the weight of the conversation settling around them. But don't you think he's your son, Dad? He's still family. Doesn't that count for something? Tom's expression softens, just a little. He looks at her, his eyes filled with a sadness that she rarely sees, but he doesn't offer any reassurances. Family, he repeats, the word bitter in his mouth. A family is built on respect, on trust. Ryan doesn't get that. He never did. Emma's shoulders slump as she takes a deep breath. She wants to argue, to demand that Tom see reason, but she knows it won't help. She knows him too well. He's made his choice, and there's no changing his mind now. She picks up her glass of wine, taking a small sip, the glass clinking lightly in the otherwise quiet restaurant. Her voice is soft when she speaks again, as though she's trying to convince herself more than him. He'll come around, you know. He'll realize what he's lost. He always does. Tom leans back in his chair, the weight of the words settling heavily between them. He picks up his own glass of wine and raises it slightly, as if to toast. But there's no cheer in it, no celebration, just quiet, unspoken solidarity. The years of building, of trying to hold things together, have come down to this. And even though there's anger in him, anger that's been bubbling up since the wedding, since Ryan's betrayal, there's also something deeper, something more resolute. He's at peace with this decision, even if it has cost him more than he's willing to admit. "We'll see," Tom says, his voice low, distant. "Maybe he'll come around, or maybe he won't. Either way, I'll sleep fine." Emma nods slowly, her expression unreadable. She knows her father too well to believe that he's truly fine, but she also knows that he's not going to let anything take away what's left of his pride, his legacy. Not after Ryan's words, not after everything that's happened. They sit in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation sinking in, before Tom speaks again. His voice is soft, almost like a confession. "You're my heir now, Emma. Keep your name clean. It'll outlive mine." The words are heavy with meaning, heavy with a finality that Emma can't escape. She looks at her father, the man she's always admired, always known to be strong and unyielding. But tonight, she sees the cracks, the subtle fractures in the armor. She wishes things were different, that Ryan had been different, but she knows this is the path they're on now. "I will, Dad," she says quietly, her voice full of determination, even if her heart aches for what they've lost. They toast again, this time with a sense of closure between them, the wine swirling in their glasses, but no celebration in their hearts. The future, they both know, is uncertain, but it's one they will face together, no matter what happens. As the night deepens, Emma can't shake the feeling that something more is coming. She just doesn't know yet what it is. The news of Ryan's rebrand spreads quickly, a fresh coat of paint on what's become a tarnished reputation. His app, once a promising tech startup, is now Ward Systems, a name that feels as polished and sleek as the wards themselves. Ryan stands in front of the camera at a small press event, his smile tight, eyes bright with a forced optimism. He talks about vision, about innovation, about moving forward and cutting ties with the past. All the right buzzwords, all the right moves to present the new face of his company. Evelyn stands beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder, a perfect image of support and ambition. She knows how to sell the narrative, how to turn a failure into an opportunity. But beneath the surface, there's a quiet unease. The viral clip from the wedding, Ryan's public rejection of the Granger name, has left a stain on everything. Investors are no longer so eager to back him. A once promising future now feels like a house built on shifting sand. The first sign of trouble comes when the investors begin to pull out. Ryan gets the emails late in the evening, each one more blunt than the last. The most glaring comes from a major investor, citing bad optics due to the viral clip. The email is curt, professionally worded, but the message is clear. We're out. The message burns in Ryan's chest like acid. He checks his inbox again, hoping for something to change, but it's all the same. The promises he once had, the deals in motion, everything's falling apart. The weight of it hits him all at once, and panic begins to set in. He can feel it crawling under his skin, his breath quickening. Evelyn's voice cuts through the chaos in his mind as she steps closer, her eyes narrowing with concern. "Ryan," she says, her voice softer than usual, but with an underlying pressure. "My father's firm won't cover your losses forever. You need a solution, and fast." Ryan looks at her, a flicker of anger sparking in his chest. The weight of her words settles in him, but it doesn't sit well. It's not just the money. It's the humiliation, the idea that he, Ryan Granger, can't stand on his own. That's what hurts the most. Evelyn's eyes are sharp, calculating. She's the practical one in the relationship, always looking ahead, always thinking about the next step. She's already considering what comes after the fall. "I know," Ryan mutters, running a hand through his hair. The frustration is palpable. He feels cornered, desperate. His mind races, grasping for any possible way out. And then it hits him, his father. He picks up his phone, his fingers trembling as he types out an email to Tom. It's short, almost too brief, but it conveys everything he needs to say. I need a bridge loan. I'll pay it back as soon as we secure new investors. Please, it's the only way to keep this afloat. He presses send, watching the email disappear into the ether, but it doesn't bring the relief he hoped. Instead, the silence that follows feels deafening. The minutes stretch on, but no reply comes. Not yet. The panic continues to rise in his chest. Then, his phone buzzes. The reply is simple, stark, almost cruel in its brevity. Ask your family. Ryan's breath catches, his heart sinking. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. His mind races as the sting of his father's rejection lingers in the air. There's no sympathy in those 3 words, no willingness to help, just the weight of everything he's lost. The trust, the relationship, the name, coming crashing down around him. A sharp, bitter laugh escapes Ryan's lips. He slams the phone down onto the desk, his hand shaking with anger. He can feel the tension boiling over, and he needs to release it, needs to lash out. He grabs his jacket, storms out of his office, and heads straight to a reporter who's been trying to get a statement from him all day. The camera is already rolling when Ryan bursts in, his face tight with fury. He barely glances at the reporter before the words spill out, sharp and bitter. I don't need him, he spits, his voice cold, full of spite. I don't need anyone from that family. I'm doing this on my own. If they can't see that, then that's on them. His words come out faster, harsher now, as if he's trying to convince not just the reporter, but himself. The ward name is what matters. That's the future. The camera flashes, the reporter nodding eagerly, the shot ready for broadcast. But as Ryan speaks, something feels off. There's a crack in his voice, a slight tremor in his hands that betrays his words. He knows the truth deep down. This, the name, the ego, the rebrand, it's all just a desperate attempt to cover up the fact that his foundation is crumbling. As the interview ends, Ryan turns away, the weight of his words settling in. He knows the public will eat it up, but inside, the realization gnaws at him. He's alone. The world is watching, and the only thing that's certain now is the fallout that's coming. He's made his choice, but the question is, will he be able to live with the consequences? Martha Crane sits at her desk, the weight of the moment pressing down on her as she carefully seals the envelope. The paper inside is heavy, deliberate, words that will change everything for Ryan Granger. She leans back in her chair, her fingers resting on the edge of the envelope for a moment before she picks up the phone. Her hand hovers over the number for Ryan's lawyer, the number she's dialed countless times for routine business matters. This, though, is far from routine. This is the point of no return. Martha had known Tom for years, seen the best and worst of him, stood by his side through every tough decision. But today, this feels different. This isn't about business or property. It's about a man who's been humiliated by his own son and is now ensuring that humiliation will never be forgotten. The phone rings 3 times before the lawyer picks up. His voice is calm, businesslike. Martha, what can I do for you today? Martha takes a breath, steadying herself. I need you to deliver this cease and desist order to Ryan, she says, her voice unwavering. He can no longer use the Granger name, logo, or likeness commercially, not without explicit permission from Tom. There's a pause on the other end, the kind that speaks volumes. You're serious? The lawyer asks, though it's more of a statement than a question. Deadly serious, Martha replies, her voice cold with finality. She's seen what Ryan did to Tom, heard the cruel words, felt the pain of a father's betrayal. She doesn't hesitate. Not anymore. The conversation continues briefly as the logistics are sorted out. The lawyer agrees to handle it immediately, and Martha sets down the phone. Her gaze drifts toward the window, her thoughts momentarily lost in the flurry of events that have unfolded over the past few weeks. There was once a time when things were simple, when family meant something. Now, everything is fractured, nothing but cold business decisions left in their wake. It's not long before the news begins to spread. Word of the cease and desist circulates quickly, whispered from one mouth to another until it reaches the Ward family. Ryan, who who thought his rebrand under Ward Systems would shield him from the fallout, now finds himself caught in a legal and public storm. His world of sleek, polished success is about to be shattered by a name he thought he had outgrown. Ryan storms into Martha's office the next morning, his face flushed with anger. He slams the door behind him, his fists clenched. My own father's suing me? His voice cracks with disbelief, a mix of hurt and outrage. The kind of anger that only comes from realizing the person you've relied on has abandoned you completely. Martha looks up at him, unfazed. Her expression is calm, almost too calm for the gravity of the situation. She leans back in her chair, her hands folded in front of her, and regards him coolly. No, she replies, her voice soft but piercing. Your former benefactor is. Ryan recoils as though he's been slapped. The words hit harder than he expected. His father, Tom, the man who built everything from nothing, has turned on him completely. The weight of that truth settles heavily in the room, suffocating him. All his life, Ryan had seen his father's decisions as the foundation beneath his own aspirations. Now, the very name that once carried prestige has been legally stripped away from him. His empire, built on borrowed dreams, is crumbling around him. As he storms out of the office, the phone rings in the background, a soft, relentless reminder that the world is watching. The media has already caught wind of the legal action. The Ward family is being dragged into the mess Ryan's made, and it's not long before Evelyn catches wind of it. By the time she confronts him, her disappointment is palpable. She stands in their living room, arms crossed, eyes narrowed with frustration. You've dragged us into your mess, Ryan, she snaps, the words sharp enough to cut through the tension in the room. Her voice trembles with the sting of embarrassment, the kind that comes when you realize your partner's mistakes will have consequences far beyond just the two of you. My family won't tolerate this. This isn't just about you anymore. Ryan's mouth opens to argue, but he stops himself. His ego, bruised and battered by his father's rejection, refuses to let him concede. He tries to hold his ground, but the words fall short. Evelyn's gaze is unwavering. You need to fix this, she adds, her tone low, almost pleading. Ryan doesn't answer. He can't. He feels the weight of his own failure suffocating him, his fingers tightening into fists by his sides. He's on his own now. Meanwhile, Tom sits quietly on his porch, the early morning light casting long shadows across the lawn. The newspaper is in his hands, the headlines blaring. Granger family's legal battle, former heir's name stripped. He's seen it all before. The gossip, the whispers, the public humiliation. But none of it matters anymore. Tom flips the page, his face calm, unreadable. It's a slow burn. The kind of satisfaction that doesn't show itself in a rush, but in the steady realization that everything is going according to plan. His gaze drifts over the quiet street, the world outside continuing as usual, while inside, his world is changing. Ryan has made his choices, and now Tom will let the consequences unfold in silence. The game isn't over, not yet, and Tom knows it. The news hits Ryan like a freight train. One by one, the investors who had once promised to back his rebranded app start to pull out. The final blow comes when the last major investor sends an email so blunt it feels like a slap. We can no longer support Ward Systems due to the ongoing negative media attention. Please consider this the end of our involvement. Ryan reads the words over and over, but they don't make sense. How could it all unravel so fast? How did everything he worked for fall apart with just a few viral moments and a tarnished name? He stares at the email for what feels like hours, each word sinking deeper into him, his pulse racing, his thoughts scattered and incoherent. In the days that follow, the ripple effect is swift and unforgiving. His staff, once loyal and enthusiastic, start submitting their resignations. One after another, they leave. Some of them were there because of the promise Ryan had made, of innovation, of success, of a future built on the Ward name. Now, that name has been associated with failure, betrayal, and a very public fall from grace. No one wants to be a part of a sinking ship. By the end of the week, the office is empty. The fluorescent lights flicker above the desks, casting an eerie glow on the deserted space. The furniture is still there, cold, unoccupied, but everything else is gone. The desks, once filled with the energy of a growing business, now feel like graves of a dream that's been buried. Ryan sits in his office, the chair cold beneath him, staring at the walls as the weight of his collapse settles in. The silence is deafening. Evelyn calls just before the last of the staff leaves. Her voice is soft, distant, though it cracks with the faintest trace of regret. "Ryan, I think it's best if I go to my parents' estate for a while. I need space to think, to figure out what's next." There's no anger in her voice, no accusations, but there's a finality to it. She's stepping away, not just from him, but from the mess he's created. Ryan doesn't say much. There's nothing left to say. He's lost everything, his business, his credibility, and now his wife. Evelyn's departure feels like a punch to the gut, but in some ways, he knew it was coming. She's always been the practical one, always playing the long game, while Ryan was too caught up in the superficial sheen of success to see the cracks forming beneath him. He watches the phone screen go dark as she ends the call, and the emptiness in his chest deepens. The silence in the office grows heavier as the hours tick by. His phone buzzes with notifications, calls from former investors, messages from colleagues, but Ryan ignores them all. The only thing that remains is the framed wedding photo on his desk, the one of him and Evelyn on their big day. He had thought it would be a symbol of their new life, of new beginnings, but now it feels like a cruel reminder of everything he's lost. His fingers hover over the frame for a moment before he picks it up, his eyes scanning their smiling faces. The picture is a lie now, a vision of happiness that no longer exists. He sets it down gently, but it feels like everything in the room is suddenly closing in on him. The walls seem to be closing in, the air heavier with every breath. Ryan grabs his phone, the weight of it almost unbearable in his hand. He dials his father's number, the one he has been avoiding for days, but this time he can't run from it. He needs to hear his father's voice, even if it's the last thing he wants. It rings once, twice, 3 times. Then the voicemail picks up. His father's voice is calm, controlled as always. "Hey, it's Tom. Leave a message." Ryan swallows, his throat tight. He takes a deep breath, his mind racing, but the words come out in a whisper, raw and strained. "Dad, I get it now." There's no anger in his voice, no bitterness. There's only grief, the kind that comes when you realize the full weight of your choices, the weight of what you've destroyed. He pauses for a moment, his fingers trembling as he holds the phone close to his ear. "I get it." The words hang in the air, heavier than he expected. The silence that follows is almost suffocating. Finally, with a sigh, he presses the button, ending the call. The words echo in the empty office, and for the first time in what feels like forever, Ryan doesn't know what to do next. There's no answer from his father. There never will be. And deep down, Ryan knows it. He stares at the walls, the emptiness of the office reflecting the emptiness inside him. The collapse is complete, and there's no rebuilding what's been broken. As the sun sets outside, Ryan leans back in the chair, the weight of the finality pressing down on him. He's lost everything, and now all that's left is the silence. What happens next? He doesn't know. Charleston's morning breeze rustles the leaves along King Street, carrying the scent of the sea and the echo of a scandal too loud to ignore. The Charleston Gazette, with its typically understated editorial stance, has published an op-ed that sends ripples through the city's tight-knit business community. The headline reads, "The name you build is the one you keep," a statement simple yet piercing, and beneath it, an anonymous source has provided an insight that strikes at the heart of the town's unspoken truths. The article is sharp, measured, and undeniably critical of the betrayals that have unfolded over the past few weeks. It doesn't name names, but the clues are unmistakable. Martha Crane's steady hand is evident in the structure of the piece, each word carefully placed, each phrase dripping with quiet disdain for those who think they can discard their past and rebuild with borrowed names and ambitions. Her voice, her wisdom, resonates through the paper, and while she never once mentions Ryan by name, it's clear to everyone in Charleston who the article is about. The op-ed makes its rounds quickly. By midday, it has reached every cafe, every boardroom, every corner of town. The whispers begin immediately, more pointed now, more vindictive. In a place like Charleston, where old money mingles with new, where legacy is as important as success, the idea that someone could simply throw away a name, a lineage, is nothing short of sacrilege. Tom Granger, sitting in his study, glances at the article as he sips his morning coffee. The paper is quiet in his hands, the weight of it settling into his chest. There's no elation, no sense of triumph in his eyes. Instead, there's something like quiet acknowledgement. He's earned something today, but it's not glory. It's something deeper, something harder to define. His old business peers, those who had whispered behind his back when Ryan was on the rise, begin to call him one by one. The conversations are brief, polite, but there's a shift in the tone. There's respect now, something that hadn't been there before, not when they dismissed Tom as old-fashioned or too stubborn to adapt. Now, in the wake of Ryan's downfall, those same men speak of principles, integrity, and the importance of family. It's almost ironic. The world, it seems, hasn't changed, but Tom has. He watches the phone vibrate with another call, another congratulation. He doesn't answer this one either. There's nothing to celebrate, not yet. Not when his son is still out there, somewhere, floundering. Emma watches it all from a distance, quietly proud, but still weighed down by the heavy price of her father's choices. She's seen the articles, heard the whispers. She knows what this moment means for her father, but she also knows what it costs. For all his cold resolve, Tom's victory is bittersweet. He's fought for this, but in the end, it's come at the expense of his son, the one person who should have carried his name forward. As Emma stands in the living room, looking out over the street below, her thoughts are a jumble of pride and sorrow. She's proud of her father's resolve, proud of how he's weathered the storm. But part of her still aches for Ryan, for the son who never truly understood what it meant to carry the weight of the Granger name, to be part of something larger than yourself. "Are you okay?" Tom asks her, his voice soft from behind. Emma turns slowly, her face unreadable. "I'm fine," she says, but the quiet sadness in her voice betrays her. She knows her father is right to do what he did, but there's a deep ache in her chest, a longing for what might have been, for a family that could have been whole. Tom watches her, his gaze steady but filled with unspoken understanding. "It's not victory," he says quietly, almost to himself. "It's gravity." Every choice falls somewhere. The weight of his words hangs between them, and for a moment, Emma doesn't know how to respond. They've won, but at what cost? The family is fractured. There's no going back. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Ryan is not exactly hiding, but he's no longer the man he once was. The people who once crowded his startup's offices, who admired him for his charm and ambition, are now nowhere to be found. The investors who once hung on his every word now ignore his calls. He's back in the city, walking the streets he used to own. But now he's a ghost. Ryan has taken a job. No, not a job in the startup world, not in the circles of wealth he once orbited. He's working at a small cafe, washing dishes, slinging coffee for customers who don't recognize him, don't care who he used to be. The uniform doesn't fit well. The apron too tight around his waist. His hands, once used to signing deals and making promises, now scrub dishes in the back of a dingy kitchen. He's been spotted by a local reporter, someone who knows the story of the Granger downfall all too well. The photo is snapped quickly, without fanfare. Ryan looks tired, older than he should. The expression on his face is one of quiet defeat, though no one can see it beyond the casual glance. The tables have truly turned. As the reporter moves on, Tom stands on the porch of his house, reading the news. The day is quiet, but there's an undercurrent to the calm, a feeling that something is ending. Something that's been set in motion for years has finally reached its conclusion. But as he stares out over the street, the question lingers in the back of his mind. Is it really over? The answer is unclear, but for now, he watches as the world around him continues to turn, just as it always has. The doorbell rings, its shrill sound slicing through the quiet of Tom's house. It's late in the afternoon, the light outside beginning to wane, casting long shadows across the porch. Tom glances up from his chair, the dim lamp overhead reflecting off the papers scattered across the desk. For a moment, he hesitates. The past few months have been full of calculated moves, and he knows what's coming even before the doorbell chimes again. With a resigned sigh, Tom stands and walks toward the door, the floor creaking slightly under his weight. He pauses for a second before opening it, his hand steady on the knob. He doesn't need to look through the peephole to know who's standing on the other side. He's been expecting this visit, even if he didn't want to. Ryan stands in the doorway, his posture stiff, a look of frustration and defeat mixed together in his eyes. The man who once stood tall with an air of confidence is now a shadow of himself, clothes rumpled, eyes tired, the weight of failure pulling him down. The Granger name has been erased from his life, and now, in the absence of the name and the empire he thought would be his, all that's left is regret. "You've made your point," Ryan says, his voice low, barely more than a whisper, but the tension behind it is undeniable. The words feel like a surrender, but there's no bitterness in them, no anger, just the quiet acknowledgement of everything that's been lost. Tom doesn't move, doesn't flinch. His gaze is steady, his face unreadable. His voice, when it comes, is calm, measured, but there's a weight behind it that can't be ignored. "You made mine." Ryan's breath catches, the words hitting him harder than expected. There's no condemnation, no harsh judgment, just a simple statement, a truth that Tom has lived with for weeks, maybe longer. In that moment, everything that has been said and done between them is laid bare. The gulf between father and son stretches wider, an insurmountable chasm that neither can ignore. They stand there for a long moment, the silence hanging between them like a thick fog. Ryan's hands are clenched at his sides, the tension in his body palpable. He doesn't know what to say, doesn't know how to fix what's been broken, but he can't leave without trying. He opens his mouth to speak, but the words get caught in his throat. The apology that has been waiting for weeks now feels inadequate, small. I'm sorry, Dad," he says finally, his voice barely more than a murmur. The words are strained, heavy, but they come from somewhere deep inside him. There's desperation there, a rawness that's hard to ignore, but it's also half-hearted, not fully formed. It's a response to the pressure of the moment, not the understanding he's been lacking all along. Tom's eyes soften, but there's no rush to answer. He stands there watching his son, a deep sorrow clouding his expression. He knows Ryan's apology is real, but it's not enough. It can't be enough. "Apologies don't fix foundations once they crack," Tom says quietly. His words are simple, but they carry the weight of years of hard work, sacrifice, and now, the final realization that Ryan will never understand the true cost of what he did. Ryan opens his mouth again, but no words come out. The pain of those words hits him harder than he expected. It's as if his father has handed him the truth in a way he can't deny. He wanted to fix things, to come here and make it right, but all he's left with is the bitter reality that the damage is done. The cracks are too deep. There's no easy way back. They stand there, staring at each other, neither one knowing what to say next. The air between them is thick, charged with everything that's been left unsaid. Tom's gaze drifts past Ryan, towards the yard outside, toward the life that once was and the one that will never be again. For a long time, it seems like nothing will move and nothing will change. Ryan shifts on his feet, the tension in his shoulders never easing. "I don't know what to do now," he admits, his voice quieter this time, the pride that once dominated him now gone, replaced with a quiet defeat. "Everything's falling apart. I thought I could fix it. I thought I could make something of myself." Tom doesn't respond immediately. He's heard these words, these same regrets, 1,000 times in different forms. He knows that Ryan doesn't fully grasp the magnitude of what he's lost, what he's done. But Tom doesn't have the energy to explain it anymore. Instead, he steps back from the door, just enough to signal that it's time for Ryan to leave. There's no anger, no yelling, just the quiet finality of what has already been said. Ryan stands there for a moment longer, then nods, his shoulders slumping in defeat. He takes one last look at his father, but Tom doesn't meet his gaze. With a soft click, Tom gently closes the door behind him. Not in anger, not in fury, but with the quiet resignation that comes when you realize there's no way back from the place you've ended up. The door shuts completely, and for a moment, everything feels still. And yet, in the silence that follows, one question lingers. What happens now? The sun is barely cresting the horizon when Emma Granger slips out of her house, a quiet figure moving through the stillness of the morning. She's been awake for hours, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts, none of them easy. In the weeks since the fallout with Ryan, she's watched him drift further away from everything he once had, a future, a name, a legacy. But more than anything, she's watched him lose himself. Ryan, once so sure of his place in the world, is now just another casualty of his own mistakes. Emma doesn't like seeing her brother this way. He's lost everything, his company, his reputation, his connection to the Granger name. But she hasn't given up on him. Not entirely. She knows he needs to find his way, but how can someone who's always relied on titles, prestige, and easy success find redemption in the raw, honest work of the world? She moves quickly now, to a small construction site on the outskirts of town. It's nothing grand, just a new subdivision going up, a modest project compared to the empire her father once ran. But to Ryan, it's a chance to do something that's not tainted by his past mistakes, something where his name doesn't carry the weight of his failure. Emma has arranged it all in secret. A job, no titles, no connection to the Granger legacy. Just a chance for Ryan to work with his hands again, to get dirty and earn his place in the world, even if it's one small step at a time. She knows he'll be reluctant at first, maybe even resentful, but she's determined. He needs this. He needs to feel the weight of honest labor, to strip away the layers of ego and ambition that have clouded his judgment for so long. The site foreman, a weathered man with a quiet demeanor, doesn't ask questions. Emma's word is enough, and Ryan's name, despite its tarnish, carries a certain weight in the industry. She watches from a distance as her brother shows up that morning, dressed in work boots and a faded t-shirt, his usual pride and confidence replaced by a quiet uncertainty. He doesn't speak much as he walks to the job site, his head down, his hands shoved in his pockets. He's not the man he used to be, and he knows it. Days go by, and Emma watches from afar as Ryan digs into the work, quietly taking orders and following instructions. There's no fanfare, no recognition. He's just another laborer now, his name on no one's lips. He doesn't ask for special treatment, though she knows it's killing him inside. The weight of his pride hangs on him like a shroud, but he keeps it to himself. This is his penance, and he knows it. Back at home, Tom learns about the arrangement. Emma doesn't tell him directly. She never does, always knowing how he'll react. But he figures it out. He doesn't confront her right away. He doesn't need to. Tom sees his daughter's quiet resolve in a way that he doesn't need explained. He knows what she's trying to do, and part of him respects her for it. But there's another part of him, the part that's been hardened by years of running his business, that feels the sting of what Ryan has become. One evening, as Emma cleans up the dinner table, Tom sits across from her, his eyes steady but soft. "Let him earn his hands again," he says, his voice rough with the weight of the words. "He needs this, not for me or for you, but for himself." Emma looks at her father surprised. She had expected anger, maybe even a scolding, but instead, there's only quiet acceptance. Tom, for all his coldness, understands. He's been where Ryan is now, lost, adrift in a sea of failure. But Tom doesn't believe in easy redemption. He knows that if Ryan is ever going to truly find his place in the world again, it will be through honest work. He doesn't say it aloud, but Tom knows Ryan's road back to the Granger name, back to any sense of dignity, is paved with humility. And so, Ryan keeps working. Every day, he moves a little further from the arrogance he once wore like armor. He feels the calluses building on his hands, feels the burn in his muscles as he carries heavy beams and mixes concrete. There are no accolades, no applause. He's just a man working, trying to rebuild himself, trying to reconcile the person he was with the person he needs to become. Each day, as he drives home from the job site, he passes by his father's company trucks. The logos are still there, Granger Developments, proud, bold, and untouched by the scandal that has engulfed his life. For a moment, Ryan's eyes linger on the familiar letters, and the weight of regret hits him like a wave. His hands grip the wheel tighter. "It's still your name," he mutters under his breath, the words heavy with meaning. He doesn't say them aloud, but they echo in his mind. It's still his name, even if he's lost the right to carry it. He's torn between the ache of that realization and the crushing weight of his own failure. The trucks disappear from view, but the words stay with him. And for the first time in a long time, Ryan wonders if he'll ever be able to rebuild what he's lost. The road ahead is unclear, but he knows this much: he's not done yet. And as the sun sets behind him, he drives on, unsure of what the future holds, but knowing that his journey, whatever it may be, has only just begun. The hospital room is sterile, bright fluorescent lights buzzing above, casting a pale glow on the walls. Tom Granger lies in the bed, a thin hospital gown draped over his frail frame, hooked up to machines that beep in rhythm with his slowing heart. His eyes are closed, his face still, but his mind is far from restful. The doctors assured Emma it was nothing too serious. A brief episode, they called it, likely stress-induced. But Tom knows his body better than anyone, and even though the doctors are optimistic, something feels different this time. Something is unraveling beneath the surface. The door creaks open, and Emma enters quietly, her footsteps soft on the tile floor. She's holding a cup of coffee, her eyes tired from the stress of the past few days. She's trying to keep it together, trying to hold up the walls of a family that's been crumbling for months. But it's getting harder. The tension between her and Ryan is palpable, a constant undercurrent to everything they've been through. Ryan follows behind her, walking slowly, his face etched with the kind of quiet concern that feels foreign to him. He's been distant, lost in his own world of failure and regret, but the sight of his father, weak, vulnerable, hits him harder than he expected. He stops at the foot of the bed, unsure of where to stand or what to say. Tom's eyes flicker open, and he turns his head toward them, his expression unreadable as always. He doesn't say anything at first, just stares at Ryan with a quiet intensity, as if measuring him, reading him for the first time in months. The space between them feels miles wide, as though the distance built over years of resentment and distance cannot be bridged by something as simple as a hospital bed. Emma sets the coffee down on the small table next to the bed and looks between her father and her brother. "The doctors say you'll be fine, Dad," she says, her voice tight with a mix of relief and fatigue. She turns to Ryan, her gaze softening. We need to make sure you take it easy. Don't push yourself." Ryan doesn't respond. His focus is entirely on Tom, his eyes flickering over his father's weakened state, the frailty of the man who had once been larger than life to him. There's a pang of guilt in his chest, one that cuts deeper than anything he's felt in months. He's tried to run from it, tried to bury it beneath the chaos of his life, but now, in the quiet of this room, there's nowhere to hide. After a long pause, Ryan steps forward, his hand trembling slightly as he reaches for the clipboard at the end of Tom's bed. The admission forms are there, ready for a signature. He stands for a moment, staring at them, as if unsure whether or not he has the right to sign. There's a heaviness in the air, a weight that makes the simple act of filling out paperwork feel monumental. Ryan's fingers brush the form, and then it hits him. His last name, Granger. He can't write it. His name, once the symbol of everything he'd hoped to build, is now a barrier, a wall between him and everything that's left of his family. The reality of it sinks in, the legal severance, the dissolution of what he thought was his birthright. He can't even sign his own father's hospital admission forms. He pauses, his breath catching, and looks over at Tom, as though seeking permission, though he knows he won't get it. Ryan begins, his voice breaking just slightly, but he doesn't finish. Instead, he grips the pen, trying to force his hand to move, but the weight of it is too much. The name on the page feels like an anchor, pulling him under. Tom's voice cuts through the tension, quiet and cold. "I legally don't exist to you anymore." The words come out in a whisper, but there's no anger in them, no venom, Just a quiet finality that cuts deeper than any shout could. Ryan freezes. His hand goes limp, the pen slipping from his fingers and rolling off the bed. The words hit him like a slap, leaving him stunned, speechless. For a moment, he stands there, his chest tightening, his mind struggling to process what Tom has just said. His father's words were always sharp, but this is different. This isn't just a rejection of his choices, it's a rejection of him, his very identity. Tears prick at the corners of Ryan's eyes, but he refuses to let them fall. He takes a shaky breath, trying to steady himself, but it's no use. The dam has broken, and he can't hold it back anymore. His pride, his stubbornness, all the walls he's built around himself crumble in the face of his father's cold dismissal. "I'm sorry, Dad," Ryan says, his voice thick, barely above a whisper. The words feel hollow, inadequate, but they're all he has left to offer. His apology is desperate, a last attempt to fix something that can't be fixed, to mend a bridge that's already been burned. Tom says nothing at first, his gaze distant, his expression unreadable. But there's a shift in his eyes, a crack in the stoic facade he's worn for so long. For just a brief moment, his mask slips, and there's something almost vulnerable in his face. Emma watches them both, her heart aching. She steps forward, placing a hand on Ryan's shoulder, a quiet gesture of support. "He's not gone yet," she says softly, her voice a quiet plea, trying to pull them both back from the edge. She's not sure if her words are for her father or for Ryan, but in that moment, they both need something to hold on to. Tom doesn't respond right away, his eyes lingering on Ryan, studying him. Then, after a long silence, he simply says, "No." His voice is thick with something unspoken. He doesn't say anything else. The silence stretches on, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavy between them. The crack in Tom's shell is still there, but it's too soon to know whether it will widen or close again. As the door to the hospital room quietly closes behind them, one question lingers in the air. Is this the beginning of healing, or the final end of a fractured family? The hospital room is bathed in the sterile glow of overhead lights. The quiet hum of machines, the only sound breaking the stillness of the night. Outside, the world is quiet, but inside, the weight of everything that's happened between father and son is heavier than ever. Ryan sits in the chair beside Tom's bed, his back rigid, his eyes fixed on his father. Tom lies motionless, the faint rise and fall of his chest the only indication that he's still alive. His eyes are closed, but there's a stillness in his face, the kind that comes with years of pain and regret buried under layers of pride. Ryan hasn't said much since he arrived. He's been there for hours, watching his father sleep, the guilt gnawing at him, making his stomach churn. He hasn't known what to say, hasn't known how to apologize for everything he's done, or for the years of anger and resentment that have built up between them. He doesn't even know where to begin. He clears his throat, the sound echoing too loudly in the quiet room. It feels like a signal, an opening. Tom's eyes flicker open slowly, but he doesn't move, doesn't acknowledge the effort Ryan is making to speak. "Dad," Ryan starts, his voice rough. He shifts uncomfortably in the chair, unsure if this is the right moment, unsure if there ever will be a right moment. But the words have been building in him for too long now, and they spill out before he can stop them. "I didn't hate you." Tom doesn't respond at first. His eyes narrow slightly, and his jaw tightens, but he doesn't speak. He's waiting. Ryan can feel the weight of that silence pressing on him, but he pushes through it. "I hated feeling small," Ryan continues, his voice trembling now, more vulnerable than he meant it to be. His hands grip the armrests of the chair, knuckles white. "I hated that I couldn't measure up, that no matter how hard I tried, I always felt like I was chasing something I couldn't reach. It wasn't you, Dad. It was me." The admission hangs in the air, thick with years of resentment, of failure, of a son who has never been able to live up to the impossible expectations his father set for him. Ryan's throat tightens as the words rush out, as if he's been holding them back for years, afraid of what it would mean to finally let them go. Tom's eyes remain fixed on him, unreadable. He doesn't flinch at Ryan's confession, doesn't soften. Instead, he exhales slowly, his gaze unwavering like he's weighing every word, every bit of emotion hanging between them. "Then you should have built bigger, not blame the name," Tom says, his voice quiet but firm, cutting through the tension like a knife. The words are blunt, harsh even, but they carry an undeniable truth. Ryan recoils slightly, the sting of his father's words sharper than he expected. For a moment, it feels like everything between them is still as fractured as it was before. The gap is too wide, the damage too deep. There's no healing in this room. There's only the weight of everything Ryan has done, everything he's lost. They sit there in silence for a long while, the minutes stretching out like hours. Ryan doesn't know what to say next. He wants to speak, to defend himself, but there's nothing left to defend. Tom's words have broken through the walls Ryan has built around himself, and now all that's left is the truth. He's failed, and he's run out of excuses. He knows it. And for the first time in a long time, he doesn't have the words to hide behind. Finally, it's Ryan who breaks the silence, his voice soft, barely above a whisper. "I failed, Dad." The words are bitter, almost impossible to say, but they come out, raw and unpolished. "I thought I could rebrand myself, start fresh, but I was wrong. I wasn't ready for any of it." The admission stings, but it feels like the first step toward something, toward understanding. Ryan feels his chest tighten with the weight of the failure, but there's something else there too, a sense of relief. For the first time in years, he's not trying to justify everything, to convince himself that he's not the problem. He's acknowledging it, all of it. The mistakes, the pride, the ego, the name he couldn't live up to. Tom doesn't say anything at first. His face is unreadable, but there's something softer in his eyes now, a glimmer of recognition that wasn't there before. He leans back against his pillows, his breathing steady but slow. "Then rebuild without shortcuts," Tom finally says, his voice quiet but resolute. The words aren't an apology, but they carry an unspoken understanding, a challenge. Tom's never been one to offer easy solutions, and he's not about to start now. But there's something in his tone, a flicker of hope, maybe, or acceptance, that gives Ryan a reason to believe that maybe, just maybe, there's a way forward. Ryan swallows hard, the weight of the words settling over him. He doesn't know if he's ready for that kind of rebuilding, but he knows this: he has no choice. The easy path is gone. They sit in silence again, but this time, the silence feels different. It's not as suffocating as it was before. It's not the silence of two people who can't understand each other. It's the silence of two people who, for the first time in a long time, are beginning to realize that there might be a way forward, together. Tom looks at Ryan for a long moment, his expression unreadable, but there's a subtle shift in his eyes. The old man's shell is cracking, just a little, and it's in that crack that a fragile truce begins to form. Neither of them says it, but they both feel it. The road ahead is long, and it's not going to be easy. But maybe, just maybe, they can walk it together. As Ryan looks at his father, something shifts inside him, a glimmer of understanding. He doesn't know if it will last, but for the first time in a long while, he's ready to try. And with that, the conversation comes to a close, leaving behind only the quiet uncertainty of what happens next. The phone rings in Tom's study, its sharp tone cutting through the otherwise quiet house. It's late in the evening, and Tom is alone, staring out of the window at the darkened skyline of Charleston. The world beyond seems distant, untouchable. The house feels too still, too silent. The months of turmoil, the fallout with Ryan, the estrangement, it's all been a slow burn. But today, something shifts. A decision has been made, and Tom knows it's the right one. The phone continues to ring, persistent, like the echo of a past that refuses to let go. Tom picks it up, the receiver cold against his ear. "Martha," he says simply, his voice steady but with the hint of something unreadable underneath. "Tom," Martha replies, her voice calm, measured. She's been through all of this with him before, the breakdowns, the decisions, the legal tangles. There's no judgment in her tone, just a quiet understanding. "How can I help?" Tom exhales, leaning back in his chair as he shifts his gaze to the papers laid out before him on the desk. His fingers trace the edges of the documents, and he speaks with deliberation, as if choosing each word with care. I've made a change. I want to reinstate Ryan, not as heir, but as custodian of the family trust. There's a pause on the other end, a slight shift in the air as Martha processes the words. Tom can almost hear the wheels turning in her head. It's not what she expected, but it's not entirely a surprise either. Custodian of the trust, she repeats, her voice calm, but with an edge of curiosity. Not as heir, but as custodian? Tom nods, though she can't see him. The decision feels right, but it's not easy. He'll guard the name he once threw away. He'll learn what it means to carry it, to protect it, not to inherit it. His words are quiet but firm, the weight of them pressing on him like a decision made long ago, now finally coming to fruition. Martha is silent for a moment, as if contemplating the weight of what Tom is suggesting. When she speaks again, there's a soft smile in her voice, one that he can almost hear across the line. Poetic justice, Tom, she says, her tone almost approving. You're giving him the responsibility he never understood. It's a good move. Tom doesn't respond immediately. He lets the silence stretch between them, his fingers tapping against the desk. Martha's words sit with him, not as praise, but as something deeper, a recognition of what this decision really means. The damage between father and son isn't gone, but perhaps, in this moment, there's an attempt to rebuild it, slowly, cautiously, with no promises of easy forgiveness. I'll draft the amendment, Martha continues, her voice steady as always. It'll be done the right way. Tom listens, his mind already moving forward. There's no joy in this decision, no victory. Just the quiet acceptance that this is the path they're on now, that it's Ryan's turn to carry the weight of the name, for better or for worse. Weeks pass before the documents are finalized. The papers, once a symbol of fracture, now feel like a fragile thread, a tentative attempt at reconciliation. Tom watches as they are signed, sealed, and prepared to be delivered. He doesn't feel triumphant. There's no rush of relief, no sense of victory, just the quiet understanding that a chapter of his life, of his family's life, is closing, and another is beginning, though neither side knows where it will lead. Ryan receives the letter days later, the envelope plain and unmarked, the weight of it far heavier than its simple appearance suggests. He doesn't know what's inside, but he already feels the tension build in his chest. The envelope feels like a door that's been slowly creaking open, and now, with the letter in his hands, Ryan feels as if he's been given a second chance, or perhaps just a reminder of everything he's lost. He doesn't open it immediately. The paper feels too thick, too final. But at some point, the curiosity gets the better of him. He slices open the envelope, unfolds the papers, and scans the words quickly. His heart thuds in his chest as the weight of the amendment settles over him. It's not an inheritance. It's not a return to the life he thought he'd have. But it is something that matters more than the money, more than the prestige. It's the Granger name, given back to him, but with a responsibility he's not sure he's ready for. The words are simple but clear. Custodian of the family trust. Guard the name. Ryan's hands tremble as he puts the papers down, the letter still resting in front of him. The gravity of the decision hits him like a wave, and for the first time, he feels the weight of what his father has given him. It's not a redemption, it's not a forgiveness, but it's a chance to rebuild. He stands there for a long time, staring at the letter, unsure of what to do next. There's no call from his father. No conversation, just this silent respect. Ryan's mind races, but the room feels too small, the silence too heavy. His thoughts swirl, but he knows one thing for sure. This is his moment. Whether he's ready or not, the responsibility is his now. Tom, sitting alone in his study, is unaware of Ryan's reaction. He's already moving forward, already thinking about the next steps, the future he's begun to rebuild in his own quiet way. The house is still, the papers signed, the weight of the decision pressing down, but the feeling in his chest is oddly light. For the first time in a long time, There's a sense of something else between father and son, a possibility. And as the evening draws to a close, neither of them knows where it will lead, but one thing is certain. This is only the beginning. Ryan stands on the dusty construction site, his boots sinking slightly into the uneven ground as he surveys the work being done. The hum of machinery and the clatter of tools fill the air, but it's not the noise that catches his attention. It's the feeling, the shift that's been happening in him over the past few months. The weight of the past still lingers, but the future feels different now, less like an obstacle and more like something within his reach. This project, this small corner of the world he's trying to rebuild, is more than just a business venture. It's his chance to prove something, not to his father, not to the world, but to himself. The sign at the entrance to the site is simple but bold: Granger Homes. Ryan looks at it, a mixture of pride and disbelief settling in his chest. The name, his name, has been legally restored. It's no longer a symbol of failure. It's a mark of a new beginning, a chance to rebuild what he lost, brick by brick. There are no flashy titles, no high-rise condos to be built here, just affordable homes, real places where people can live. It's the kind of work that matters, that means something, and it's something Ryan can be proud of. He doesn't know if it's enough to redeem him, but it's a start. Emma walks up beside him, her gaze following his. She's been a steady presence throughout this journey, pragmatic, grounded, always looking for the next step. "We're doing good here," she says quietly, her voice a mixture of hope and cautious optimism. She's watched her brother struggle, watched him crash and burn, but now, for the first time in what feels like forever, she can see the determination in his eyes again. She's not sure if this project will fix everything, but it's clear that it's giving Ryan something he's needed, a purpose. Ryan nods, but the weight of the moment isn't lost on him. "We're doing more than good," he says, his voice steady. "We're doing right." The sound of a car pulling up breaks the silence, and Ryan looks up to see a familiar figure, his father's car, the old sedan that's been parked in the driveway more times than Ryan can count. His heart skips a beat. He wasn't expecting this, wasn't ready to face Tom here, on the ground where he's finally trying to make something of himself. Tom steps out of the car, his gaze sharp and observant as he scans the site. He doesn't say anything at first, doesn't make any grand gestures of approval or disapproval. He's just there, standing on the edge of the work site, his eyes flickering over the workers, the progress, the sign. Ryan watches him from a distance, unsure of what to expect, unsure if his father is even going to acknowledge him. There's a quiet tension in the air, but it's not the explosive kind of confrontation Ryan once feared. It's something quieter, more contemplative. As Tom walks closer, a few of the workers greet him, nodding in respect, offering him small smiles. It's strange to see Tom here, among the workers, the same man who once commanded boardrooms, who built a legacy that now feels both distant and unshakable. The workers know the name, Granger, but there's no reverence in their eyes now. There's no sense of superiority, just mutual respect, a shared understanding that this is honest work. "Granger Homes," Tom says quietly as he stands in front of the sign. His voice is low, almost reflective, and Ryan can't tell if it's disappointment or approval he hears in it. He watches his father carefully, waiting for some sign of what Tom is thinking. After a long pause, Tom nods. It's not a grand gesture. There's no triumphant speech, just a simple, almost imperceptible movement of his head. But in that nod, there's something, an acknowledgement maybe, not of success, not of failure, but of something real, something tangible. Ryan doesn't know what to make of it, but for the first time, it doesn't matter. Tom is here, in this place that Ryan has carved out for himself, and he's not dismissing it. He's not criticizing it. He's not tearing it down. Ryan stands still, not knowing what to say, unsure if there's anything left to say. Emma watches her father, waiting for the next move, but there's nothing to fill the silence. It's not comfortable, but it's not uncomfortable either. It's just quiet, a peace of sorts settling between them. They don't need to speak the words. They've been spoken already, in actions, in decisions, in the unspoken understanding that this is what comes next. Tom doesn't say anything more. After a long moment, he turns and walks back toward the car, his pace steady. He doesn't look back, but there's something in the way he carries himself that makes Ryan think that maybe, just maybe, there's a recognition there. A recognition that this is the beginning of something different. Not redemption, not forgiveness, but a beginning. As Tom drives away, Ryan stands there for a long while, staring at the sign, his thoughts swirling. The workers return to their tasks, their voices fading into the background. Emma walks over and stands beside him, offering him a quiet, almost imperceptible smile. "It's not everything," she says, her voice soft but sure. "But it's something." Ryan nods, his gaze fixed on the sight ahead. "It's enough," he says quietly, though the uncertainty still lingers beneath the surface. He doesn't know if this is the moment that will fix everything, or if it's just one step in a long, uncertain road. But for the first time in a long time, it feels like the right step. And as the sound of hammers and drills fills the air, Ryan knows that the journey has only just begun. The grand ballroom of the Charleston Chamber is awash in soft golden light, the chandeliers casting a warm, almost ethereal glow over the neatly arranged tables. The air hums with the quiet murmur of conversation and the clinking of silverware, a stark contrast to the significance of the event. Tonight, the local business elite have gathered to honor one of their own. Tom Granger, the self-made magnate who built a legacy from the ground up, is being awarded for his lifetime of contribution to the community and the business world. The years of work, the late nights, the sacrifices, it's all coming to fruition tonight, a culmination of everything Tom has spent his life building. He stands at the front of the room, his posture straight, his gaze fixed on the podium. There's no elation in his expression, no excitement, just the quiet acceptance that this is the moment, the one he's been waiting for, or perhaps dreading, for years. His suit is crisp, his hair neatly combed, but there's something heavier in the air tonight, a weight that has nothing to do with the accolades. Emma sits beside him, her eyes gleaming with pride, but there's something more there, something bittersweet. She knows this moment means something to her father, but she also knows it means something more than he's willing to admit. For Tom, it's always been about legacy, about what he built, about what's been achieved. But for Emma, it's about more than the awards and recognition. It's about the quiet moments, the ones that make the years of hard work worth it. Ryan enters the room quietly, a step behind Emma. He's wearing a dark suit, his posture stiff, his face unreadable. He's not here for the accolades. He's here because he has no choice. The weight of everything that's happened hangs over him like a cloud, and tonight, he's the outsider, the one who was once supposed to inherit the family's empire, but has instead watched it slip away, piece by piece. Ryan doesn't sit with his family. Instead, he takes a seat at the back of the room, as far from the spotlight as possible. He's a ghost in this world now, a reminder of what once was and what can never be, again. He watches his father, the man who built everything, who once made him believe that he could have it all. The applause that follows Tom's name being announced feels distant, almost alien, like it belongs to someone else. His father, standing tall at the front of the room, is still the king of this world, but Ryan no longer belongs in it. Tom steps up to the podium, the crowd falling silent as the lights shift toward him. He doesn't look at Ryan directly, but there's something in his gaze that feels like a bridge between them. A bridge made of time, of mistakes, of things unsaid. He clears his throat, his voice steady and measured as he begins his speech. "It's an honor to stand here before all of you tonight," Tom says, his words crisp, his tone as calm as it's always been. "But if I've learned anything in this life, it's that no man makes it alone. Mistakes made us stronger." He pauses, his gaze flickering momentarily toward the back of the room where Ryan sits, unseen by most of the audience, but not invisible to Tom. The words land heavier than he intended, an unspoken acknowledgement of everything they've been through. The audience claps, their applause polite and enthusiastic, but it doesn't fill the room the way it used to. For Ryan, it feels hollow. He lowers his head, the weight of the applause pressing on him, a strange mixture of pride and humility twisting inside him. The man standing at the front of the room, the one receiving all the admiration, is the same man who once told Ryan that the name was everything, that without it, they were nothing. And yet, here he is, accepting an award for the legacy that Ryan will never carry forward. Emma reaches over and squeezes her father's hand. The gesture is small, but it means everything. Tom doesn't acknowledge it, but his grip tightens just slightly, as if to say that in this moment, even in the midst of everything that's been lost, they are still a family. The distance between them and Ryan may never close, but they can still find moments of quiet understanding. Ryan's mind races as he sits there, lost in the weight of the moment. His heart aches, a quiet throb of regret and realization. He knows he's made mistakes, knows that his choices have cost him far more than he's willing to admit. But the truth is undeniable. His father's world is gone for him. The name is a legacy, yes, but it's one that Ryan has no place in now. He feels like a bystander in a story he was once meant to be a part of. The applause finally dies down, but the air in the room still feels thick. Tom is still at the front, shaking hands with those around him, but the triumph doesn't reach him the way it used to. For all the years of work, the accolades, the success, there's something missing. The satisfaction is fleeting, and the emptiness beneath it is undeniable. As the banquet draws to a close, Ryan stands up slowly, his movements measured, his gaze fixed ahead. He doesn't look at his father, doesn't try to make some grand gesture. He simply walks out of the room, the sounds of the event fading behind him. Outside, the night is still. The world is quiet, and for a moment, Ryan is left standing alone in the shadows, his mind a storm of unspoken thoughts. The cycle that began with dreams of a legacy now feels like it has come full circle, except the end is still uncertain. The applause has faded, but the weight of it remains. What comes next? Ryan doesn't know, but he knows one thing for sure. The legacy he thought he could inherit has already been written without him, and now it's up to him to figure out what his story will be. The night lingers, quiet and uncertain, as the first steps toward whatever comes next begin to take shape. The sun is low in the sky, casting long shadows across Tom Granger's study as he sits behind his oak desk, the papers laid out in front of him. The room is quiet, save for the occasional rustle of paper and the faint hum of the distant city outside. Tom doesn't rush as he reads over the final trust documents, documents that will close one chapter of his life and perhaps begin another. His fingers move slowly, almost deliberately, as he checks the wording one last time. His eyes flicker over the signature lines, and for a moment, he hesitates. This is the end, the final decision. No going back. Martha stands across the room, her gaze steady as she watches him. She's seen him through countless decisions, countless battles, but this one is different. There's no triumphant energy here, no sense of victory, just a quiet understanding of what needs to be done. After everything, the betrayals, the mistakes, this is the conclusion, the moment of finality. Tom picks up the pen, his grip firm but not rushed. He moves it across the paper, the ink flowing smoothly. The weight of the action feels heavier than he expected. He signs his name, the loops of the letters like the last piece of a puzzle that has taken years to complete. The family name, the legacy he fought for. His daughter Emma will carry it forward, and Ryan will guard it. Not as heir, but as custodian, tasked with protecting something he once discarded. The Granger name lives clean, Martha says, her voice steady as she steps closer to him, her hands resting on the edge of the desk. The words are simple, but they carry a weight of finality. There's no bitterness in her tone, no judgment, just the acknowledgement of what this decision means for both of them. Tom looks up at her, his eyes briefly meeting hers. For a moment, he smiles faintly, almost imperceptibly, but enough for Martha to see the quiet satisfaction behind it. "That's all I ever wanted," he replies, his voice low, but there's a kind of peace in it that feels new. It's not victory, not in the way most would define it, but for Tom, this is closure. This is what he's been fighting for, something clean, something free from the weight of mistakes and regret. There's a silence between them, but it's not uncomfortable. It's the kind of silence that settles after a long day of hard work, when everything has been said and done. Tom looks out the window, his gaze drifting to the construction site across the street. He watches for a moment, his eyes narrowing slightly as he takes in the scene. Ryan, standing among the workers, overseeing the progress of the new project. His movements are purposeful, but there's something different about the way he carries himself now. There's no arrogance in the way he stands, no sense of entitlement. Instead, Ryan's laughing with one of the workers, a genuine, unguarded moment. The sound of his laughter is faint, but it carries across the street to Tom's ears. Tom's gaze softens as he watches his son, the once proud heir who had rejected everything he had worked for. Now, here he is, learning, growing, finding a sense of humility in the kind of work he once scoffed at. For the first time in a long time, Tom sees Ryan for what he is now, not the failure he once believed him to be, but a man who has finally begun to understand the weight of the name he once threw away. Tom leans back in his chair, his fingers still resting lightly on the edge of the desk. His face is unreadable, but there's a shift in his eyes, a subtle understanding that wasn't there before. The anger that once boiled beneath his skin has long since faded. It's been replaced with something quieter, something that feels like a slow burn of acceptance. No anger left, Tom murmurs quietly to himself, his voice soft but full of meaning. Only understanding. He watches Ryan for a moment longer, a long silence stretching between them. It's not a moment of redemption, not in the way most would see it, but it's something, a realization, a recognition. Tom knows that this isn't the end of the story, far from it, but it's the beginning of something different, something grounded. He watches Ryan, and for the first time, a sense of peace settles over him. Now he deserves the name, Tom whispers, his voice barely audible, as if the words are for himself more than anyone else. The weight of the statement lingers in the room, heavy and full of meaning. Tom doesn't look at Martha. There's no need to. The words are for her too, but more for himself. A quiet release of something he's held onto for so long. A sense of closure that feels final, but not in a way that leaves him empty. Instead, it feels like the last thread of a complicated tapestry being woven into place. Martha's gaze shifts toward the window, her expression softening, as she sees the same scene Tom does. Ryan, standing on the construction site, surrounded by workers, no longer burdened by the past. For a moment, there's no more need for words. And as the day draws to a close, with the faint hum of the construction site still echoing in the distance, Tom knows that the legacy isn't gone. It's been handed over, quietly, resolutely, and perhaps, for the first time, it's truly in the right hands. The future is uncertain, but for the first time, Tom can rest easy,